the show to become is a grandiose posturing of rhetorical arguments. So one of the reasons why I want to discuss compromise is that it's quite difficult when we're discussing black affairs without discussing the issue of compromise, because it's so difficult for us to have a genuine conversation on a lot of these subject areas because of always doing our best to not offend someone. So we have to look at, even when we're discussing these subject areas, these topics, how difficult it is having many discussions off and away from the airwaves, and the media broadcasts that we do with this show. Having many discussions, the issue, even when we discuss in the Harry and Meghan saga, comes into play because everyone sees that as it may not. A lot of black people see that as it may not even be a black issue, because they see that there's this new argument coming up within the press. It's not made national news as yet, but it's newsworthy so far, where you have a lot of mixed celebrities that are creating what you call mixed spaces. And these mixed spaces are spaces for people that are of mixed heritage, for example, that they can come together and have a space for themselves. But yet there's a lot of backlash brewing from that, from some in the black community that feel that with this mixed platform, they themselves are excluded from that, but yet mixed as people from mixed heritage are allowed into black spaces acceptingly. But there's this consensus to say people that are of mixed heritage, they themselves are segregating themselves from the black community. So should the black community be so accommodating to everyone? And see, so it becomes a delicate subject matter in every sense of the word when we're having discussions in and around the simplicity of black and black issues, because we are always placed in a compromised situation, whether it's based on our friendship groups, where we don't want to offend our friends. Should we say something that a friendship group, someone that's not from the same ethnic grouping as us, should have hear us having that discussion? It fuels the narrative that that we're segregationists in that sense. And a lot of people tend not to be able to feel comfortable within their own skin to have that discussion. Whether it's your employment, that you feel that you cannot be a part of certain discussions because of the employment field that you have, and the moment that it comes up that you're a part of certain discussions, you feel that you're at risk of losing your job. Or whether it's your wider family or closer family, people in those mixed relationships, for example, is it difficult for them to have that dialogue to in that discussion? So I wanted your take on that, how difficult it is for us to have that constructive conversation, because it's all good and dandy when we discuss what we have in common, and because that's what should really be the seal on the bond to make our discussion and our community grow. But unfortunately, we also have to look at where the seeds of doubts are, and where, if we don't understand where the seeds of doubts are, can people always step in and cause a fracture and a break within the community and community ethos and community focus. And the aim of the show is to bring together community cohesion. And to have that community cohesion, we then have to start looking at the things that irks us, the uncomfortable subjects, the uncomfortable topic areas, the uncomfortable feeling that we get when we have certain discussion. So we discuss everything. And I roll on from that into the Harry and the Meghan saga. That's where I want to. That's the first focus today, really, of the show. So let us know what you think about that. Do you think? Now, I want to make myself clear. When I, over the last few years of doing my research on whether a show such as this could be feasible to have such delicate conversations within the public eye without being termed a black nationalist or a segregationalist, but where we can have these constructive and professional and conversation. It's not about divide. It's about unity, about, a common language amongst ourselves, because we have a common understanding of everything that's going on amongst each other. When we look at so whilst doing that research, I realized that when I listen to the national media, I've never heard one of those presenters go ham and say something negative about the Queen. So I looked into it myself, and I realized that the Queen has dedicated her life to Britain as a whole. And someone that's dedicated their life and done a true excellent job in publicizing and promoting Britain worldwide, and a lot of the things that she's done, dedicating your life to one thing, is one of the most arduous tasks, though we give credit where credit is due. So I'm not going to say nothing negative about the Queen, but I do feel in this situation here that the advice, and when we look at the Panama Papers, and for those of you that don't know about the Panama Papers, when we take it back a couple of years, was that old issue with the Queen, Lewis Hamilton, and all these celebrities that were caught up in what they call as tax avoidance schemes. And in at that time, the Queen was the media completely, exonerated the Queen by saying it was her advisors, because the Queen it herself wouldn't be handling her cash and saying, put my money there, put my money here. And okay, we all accept that. So in this scenario, we will also blame the advisors again, right? They blame the advisors then. So I would think the advisors, and in this sense, I would call those advisors Buckingham Palace per se. And I would say that I think in this issue with Harry and Meghan, I think from my perspective, correct me if I'm wrong, Buckingham Palace is on the wrong side of history. When they use that term, they simply mean that, how is it things are going to be viewed in 10, 20 years time, or 30, 40 years time from now. It's like, are you going to be on the right side of history? Or are you going to be on the wrong side of history? I think in this sense, they're on Buckingham, the advice that was given is on the wrong side of history, because when we look at it, it does feel that the narrative that's been placed onto Meghan and Harry over the last few years since they've been married has a lot of racial undertones in terms of the prejudices that's being placed on towards this couple because of her mixed heritage. And we call her black, but I don't she will call herself mixed heritage probably. So my producer might not agree with me in saying that she's black, but it is what it is. I grew up in this school of thought of where if one drop of blood is black, you're black. But I fully grasp the fact that in this new school of thought, people want to not essentially be so black and white with things. They want to be quite definitive, because they say it's mixed heritage because it is what it is. Granted, I have no qualms in recognizing it in whatever way someone wants to term it and claim it to be. But when we look at that, the nuances there is that we know from the media that we have this black lady or that has a strong black heritage, um, married into the royal family. The newspapers and the media in the UK has done nothing but always pushing negative narratives in regards to her and the relationship and the interaction of her into British society. So it's never been accepted. And for me, when I see those things happening, even in small doses, I historically we know that there's an attack coming along the way, that this behavior will then seem to have justified or will justify. So for me, I was waiting for the punchline, and I feel the punchline is now hit with the advice that has been given, or with the stance that's been taken by the ill-advised information, where they're not able to use the Sussex brand, Sussex Royal. They're not able to use that. They're not able to do a lot of people that aren't day-to-day royals are allowed to do. So you have these day-to-day royals that are allowed to do the exact same thing, but they're not in the public eye going out there doing official work. So for them to step away from official work, they're not able to do what other royals have been doing. And yet the British press have taken this, I think, ill-advised judgment to mean that it's validated. And I think it's the validation of it comes from the negativity that's been placed on them over the last few years. And that's why we say mud sticks. And it's good to always clean those mud completely from yourself, because mud sticks, and people will try to use those negative narratives, even though you haven't done anything wrong, to try to paint a picture about you in the future. And you have to be mindful of the things that you let slip about yourself, or to let stand. I'm of a position where I'm an eye for an eye kind of guy. If you do me something wrong, trust me, I'll be doing it back. I don't care. That's my position. Whoever wants to feel any way about that, that's your problem. You run up on me, I'll run back up on you. That's my position. So we have to kind of, I'm not saying you should be like me. I am who I am. I'm just saying we have to be in a position of grasping the fact that these nuances is how things work within the national press, within the media. And we have to, as a people, start to grasp the fact that we have to consciously be aware of these nuances, know these nuances impact on us and others, and always take the position of making sure that these nuances don't become a label on us when we take these examples of how we see how our own are treated within the public and the public domain. We can look at, for example, Sajid Javid and Preeti Patel. We know the two of them kind of turned on their own communities in their behavior within the national press, I'll say. And now the UK has kind of turned on them. Gradually, slowly, it comes back around. As they say, the chickens come home to roost. So he was cleverly forced out, whether they want to say that or not. And now she's under that clever pressure, from those who are, whether in the public domain or the media, or whoever we want to say that's doing it. But I always hold the position of always saying I never will sell out my own, because if you sell out your own and you're traitor to your own, no one will ever trust you. You know what I'm saying? So why would they even trust her? Because if she can do that to her own, why would she not do it to anyone else? But that's their argument, that's their fight. I'll just use that as an example to say that we have to learn from these nuances in that eye. So what do you feel? How am I wrong in my thinking? How do you view this? And what I don't want anyone to put the show in any kind of area of disrepute, because like I said, I've never heard the media, the national media in the UK lambast the Queen herself. So we're going to lambast the advisors to say that the Queen has been ill-advised. I'll give that much credit there, because we keep it within the bounds and the balancement of how they treat things within their own professional context of things. And we're not going to bring the poor old lady into disrepute there. So we're going to deal with it professionally. So what do you guys feel? Do you feel in regards to the Arian Megans now? I mean, again, it's a bit of a celebrity situation, but we have to kind of, as they say, the old saying goes, you take sleep, mark that. You know what I mean? We have to kind of look at how she's being treated, how the couple's being treated. And for my question is, where's the Me Too movements for this? We have a scenario where a female has been bullied extremely on racial and prejudicial grounds within the British press and media, and yet you have none of these movements that have come out and given credit to her husband. And we have to give credit to her husband for supporting his partner and standing by her in terms of what is clearly has been prejudicial and even racist treatment within the British press. We know how these extreme prejudicial treatment can manifest, with the apparent suicide of Caroline Fleck last week. So protecting those that you care about, and I mean, we spoke about compromise earlier. We're not going. I'm not going to say that I would never step into someone's relationship to say people should not be with who they love. because at the end of the day, the test of time is with that. But what I will always say is that we have to always genuinely look at compromise in that situation to say that if you're defending who you love, you will always be compromised. So Harry is somewhat compromised, isn't it? Because he's in a relationship with someone that he has to protect as a man, and as a man, he's doing that. Credit where credit is due. So he's compromised in the eyes of his family, and as such, are they being punished? Or is it the narrative that's causing that to take place? Let me know what you think. The number 0753 996 8143. I'll give it again, 0753 996 8143. It's the doctor's surgery. Let me know how I sound. If you're listening, let me know that you're listening. You know, if you're listening, let me know that you're listening, because it's good and crucial to know that there's a listening audience out there. If you could forward me the link for the YouTube, please, so I can send it out there. So if you want to see a live feed, I can just let us know. We can send you the live feed so you can see live of what's going on in the studio via the YouTube link. So there's that's a part of our subject discussion today. That's the first subject. So if you want to call in, let us know what you think about that, what your feelings are. On the next note, because no one ain't called in yet, I have to keep going. On the next note, we want to talk about the issue of, celebrities throwing, what's the word I'm looking for? Celebrities throwing shade in, I don't know how to look if there's a message that comes from that. I thought there was a few messages. Where was I? Yes, celebrities. Is that a message coming? No. Okay, I don't know what that is about. So yeah, celebrities showing shade on the British press, the British media. What I mean? Sorry, celebrities showing shade. Black celebrities showing shade. Miss call, drop caller. Give us a call back, 0753 996 8143. I give it again, 0753 996 8143. We wanted so the other this area of discussion is Dave calling the Prime Minister racist. What do you feel? Is Dave correct in his analysis? I haven't been able to give that aspect of things much thought, but I would like to know, is the Prime Minister racist? Do you think his policies are racist? Do you think it's too much of early days to give comment on what Boris Johnson will achieve? Was he a good mayor of London, do you feel? A lot of people speak positively about his mayoralship whilst he was the mayor of London. Do you feel, because he was one of the people that stopped the stop and search? I think that was something that he kind of was against, the stop and search. So is it early days? Do we need to see what will manifest, or is it the case that once you're in that seat, that hot seat, you will always take on the guise of what that seat represents, and that house has never really been institutionally for us? And that's the next point I want to highlight and clear up that came to light from the show. And again, I thank all the callers that's contributed over the past few weeks. The point I want to make is, what's the word I'm looking for? The point I want to make is, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. What was I saying again? Sorry, dealing with a lot here. What was I saying again? Just jog my memory.
Dave.
And the last thing I said, I wanted to make a point there. It was a valid point. I'll come back to it. So again, so with Dave, is the Prime Minister racist? What's your views on that? 0753 996 8143, 0753 996 8143. Are these is the only voice that we have always going to be entertainers? And I mean, it's good when the entertainers support us, but should the entertainers be guided by people that are more intuitive in terms of their study. I'm not saying that entertainers aren't intuitive. I'm not saying entertainers in their own right aren't smart, but should, when we listen to the national media, national press, they always have some expert that goes and explain things um, in greater detail. And that's one of the things that I think that we lack. And this goes back to my comment about nuances. We fail to see with clarity a lot of the issues that have in how it's set. About institutional racism, this is where I was going with it. When we talk about institutional racism, one of the points that was made clear with institutional racism is that we know that that is it Clarissa or what's her name, Crusader Dick. Yeah, that's it. Crusader Dick, head of the Metropolitan Police. She, when she came in, recognized that the police force was institutionally racist. Now, her position is that the police force is no longer institutionally racist. And one of the things that I was asking you as the listening audience was, is this correct? Is this a correct position to say that the police force is no longer institutionally racist? Now, my not understanding the term institutional racism at the time led to me asking that question. And this is where we say we will grow together and develop one voice together and one grasp of how everything works together with true clarity and discussion. And the realization now around institutional racism is that institutional racism is a term that's coined based on the premise that an organization that hasn't got the right policies and procedures in place to address and deal with something in relation to race relations and race matters can be deemed to be institutionally racist. And that's my grasp of how it works. But once the organization puts policies and procedures in place, then it's remedied. Now, this is a very Eurocentric way of looking at things because we don't look at things in that sense. When we heard the term institutionally racist, in my mind initially, and I'm sure in a lot of the listening audience, if you're out there listening, the thinking would have been automatically that the difficulties that you've had with the police has now been recognized, that the reason why you've had these difficulties is because they themselves are racist and they themselves are in an institution that is subjecting you against a lot of prejudice actions and behavior. So when you see that and when you hear that, you have to kind of recognize that the institution itself has that negative connotation to it. But you can understand now why Crusader Dickhead of the Metropolitan Police would say that the institution is no longer racist by simply changing some procedures. And it's like doing these things, and taking these little nuanced positions. It's like for you're whitewashing over the problem. The true nature of the beast has disappeared because now the institution can say, look, I've got policies and procedures in place that protects all ethnic groupings, but yet you've not addressed the issue of the interactions and the interrelationship. So we have to start grasping that the language is important. I mean, some of you lot might have already known, but how many of you knew that that little nuance existed? So these are the things that we would like listener. Again, we're on YouTube, the Doctor's Surgery on YouTube, and I can give that YouTube link if you want to see live. That's the only one that we've actually had up and coming. We're going to put out the videos from the recordings from the last few shows. So if you haven't got that, um, get a link to that. It's the Doctor, TheDrSurger, the Doctor Surgery, and that's on the YouTube link. So if as and when you want to take part in the show, we'll be glad to hear from you. Let us know that you're listening. I'll give you the number again. It's 0753 996 8143. I'll give it again, 0753 996 8143. Looking at the current affairs that's impacted on us over the past week. Going back into compromise, this subject area again. I said there's quite a few things that's taking place. Any of those, if you want to discuss the Megan scenario in terms of the nuances that I explained, for me the wrong positioning of the Buckingham Palace in relation to this matter. If you're just tuning in, when I say Buckingham Palace, I mean those advisors to the Queen, not blaming the Queen, but the advisors to the Queen. And it's not that I have a problem in saying anything directly about. I'm not trying to shirk away from saying it. I'm just I've just looked at how others have done it, and no one has ever said that. So I'm not going to take that position to try to be brash. Um, I take the professional standpoint to have that dialogue because we're not trying to create a divide. We're looking for clarity so that we understand how society is impacting on us better, and so we understand how to interact in society that much more better for ourselves and our children. Because even if it doesn't affect you as someone that's more well adjusted within Britain's society, which there are a lot of black folks in Britain that are doing quite well, that are well adjusted, but then again there are a lot of others that are not. And if you're, and they say you're only as strong as the weakest link or in the chain, right? So we have to kind of empower everyone to have that grasp, at least in terms of dialogue. And once that grasp is there, we know how to take a better position with things. So again, we were talking about, so that's even one thing. So compromising it, we have to compromise in everything we do, it seems. When we talk about sexuality in the black community, and we talk about, what's his name, John Fashanu, and being the first, um, is it the first gay footballer or the first black gay footballer? I'm not sure which one it is. How did that impact things at the time? Are you of that age that when that came out, how was it in Britain at the time? I don't know. Let me know. How did Britain take that at the time? And what were the pros and what were the cons of that? And how does the black community take that now? Do we even care about that stuff right now? We arc back. I arc back momentarily to the controversy with the dancehall reggae music of the early to mid '90s, due to a song by a very popular DJ at the time. That I felt that did time in prison simply because they wouldn't leave him alone because he sung that song. And we know we're talking about Boom Bye Bye, if you don't know what I'm talking about. And the way that I felt that an agenda was used over the years, to actually bring a focal point on a movement that needed a crutch. And I felt that dancehall reggae music was used as a crutch to promote something that some someone on an agenda to promote. I'm not saying that they don't have a right to exist or anything like that. That's not that. I would never say anything like that because I don't really care what people want to do. It's more so of actually using a crutch, to get your valid point across. Just like we're having a discussion and we're talking about the different things that have taken place within the media over the past week. Those things can be viewed as using the life of the royal impact as a crutch. So it's the same way that they used dancehall reggae music as a crutch to get their agenda and their point across, and that was a political move, not really something that they felt that the song, and if they really knew, not something that the song was really purporting or propagating. It wasn't really taking place. No one was going out around and killing anyone, but it was taken as if it was the case, and that was another issue in that. So how was that at the time when the footballer came out? How is sexuality viewed in the black community? Do we feel we're a bit compromised on that front? Do we feel that because I think black folks are very conservative when it comes to sex and sexuality. um, and one of the things that I wanted to kind of address with the subject matter today is in terms of the new frontier in this area, in terms of sexuality with the push within the trans community. And it's a very dangerous time because the reason why I wanted to bring it to the forefront is because over the past week I learned about a prominent Hollywood actress that has a 12-year-old 12-year-old,
Scarborough Union. Yeah.
a 12-year-old stepdaughter, stepson, sorry. See, this thing's confusing me. It's the 12-year-old stepson that they are actually pushing for surgery
Mm.
on a 12-year-old. You know what I mean? So how many 12-year-olds out there truly have life coined to a T, where you can say that things are so coined in life to a T that you're not going to change your ethos and your perspective over coming years. And this is where I feel when the black community starts to buy into certain things and to jump onto certain bandwagon, that it becomes dangerous, even in the Eurocentric communities. It becomes dangerous amongst Europeans and young people that have been pigeonholed at such a young age into thinking something that they feel that should then affect the rest of their lives. How many people like Spice Girls when they were younger, but now you couldn't you would hide it from your friends that you used to listen to Spice Girls? You know what I mean? It's amazing. I didn't listen to Spice Girls, by the way. I'm just using that as an example because, you know, I don't know. I didn't know one of their songs. So I'm just using it as an example to say we we have to be mindful of how nuances work and how it starts to impact on the ill-advised, because at 12 there's no way a young child at 12 or even a youngster at those ages, you can be pigeonholed in someone at that age or someone that's pre-pubescent, as they would say, to start feeling that they are going to be like this or feeling like the way they feel for the rest of their life. So there should be some catering and, because at the end of the day, you're talking about mutilation here, self-mutilation for move parts of their anatomy because they don't feel that that part of their anatomy at that time, at that age, is adequate. You know, what's going to happen in 10, 20 years time? Are they still going to feel the same? And how is that going to impact on their psychological thinking? And these are the things that we have to kind of address as a community, how things impact on us, because everything tends to impact on us more so in a worse way. And the reason why things impact on us in more so in a worse way is simply because of how society tends to make things work out and pan out. And when we look at our young people, we have this discord within the social field. We have so much young people out there that feel disenfranchised because nothing positive is ever portrayed about us, whilst everything about us is positive. And this is why I say it impacts on us in a negative way, because we have to kind of step away from the the negative narrative, and we have to start thinking about the positive narrative and start standing our ground with the positive narrative. And again, that's what it's about in this discussion and this dialogue. Feel free to call in. Let me know that you're listening. 0753 996 8143. I'll give it again, 0753 996 8143. The Doctor's Surgery, where we discuss all the current affair issues that's taking place um, over the last week or so. Can you even when we talk about compromise, could you even listen to this show within the workplace? I when I was asked about the time slot for this show, I purposely chose the weekday because we could have done it on the weekend, but I wanted to do it on the weekday. And it's really about to kind of tackle things head on, because we're so afraid to do certain things within society and take certain positions and have certain stances and certain stance, that it's amazing. It's such an amazing thing that how compromised we are. But I digress. Let's jump back onto the subject matters. Again, if you want to take part, 0753 996 8143. Yeah, so the last aspect of things that I mentioned before I go back around in a loop, are women a marginalized group? My producer says yes, but are women a marginalized group? Because I don't think so. And this is where we've had our back and forth in arguments and this from our discussions, right? Where I guess I could be seen as a chauvinist, I guess, in some sense of my thinking that I've been told. But I do not think women are a marginalized group. I think women are actually in control. I think women have so much power and so much clout that it's unbelievable. But again, as my producer would point out to me, that which women are we talking about? Are we talking about women generally, or are we talking about women of the European persuasion? Because there's an agreement when we say women of the European persuasion have a lot of power and a lot of clout, but then yet they pretend as if they don't, as if they're feeble and weak. But I do feel that women are very strong and are a very empowered group in every way, shape, and form. I just feel that society is pushing in this Western society for the ability for women to be able to, and I'm sorry about the use of my language, manipulate the lives of every area and facets of things. You know, but the fact of the matter is, are women a marginalized group? Do you, as a black woman, if you're listening, do you feel marginalized, or are you marginalizing yourself? Because we as a people do marginalize ourselves, you know. And a subject that I said that I wasn't sure if I was ready to discuss as yet is the fact that even the very premise of racism is kept in the forefront and kept in a perpetual state simply because they allow it to occur. When we talk about racism and the perpetuation of racism, we self perpetuate racism because everything that takes place on this planet, if you haven't realized yet, it starts or germinates within black culture, for lack of a way of putting it, and then broadens globally. So the roots or the germination process is always within our community. Even the very slurs that are tend to be used against us, we keep them in the public's mind's eye in our language. I'm a person that years ago I would argue for the usage of the N word, um, to say that the GGA means that someone's your brother. You're saying it with affection, and I've probably can be played back on recordings, emphasizing that the GGA means brotherhood, and it's with affection. And whilst that may be true, the GGER in the usage of the N word is the racial and the hateful slur. But we fail to realize that when we're rapping and we're saying GGAs and GGAs, and sometimes we might even be, based on the context, be GGERs in ourselves. Someone listening in on that, all they hearing and all they hear is the GGER. Because when we use language, we use language on a conceptual basis, in my thinking, my thoughts. I could be wrong. Correct me if I am wrong. I use we use language in a conceptual format, meaning that we don't speak with the Queen's English. Most of us don't. And if there's any of us that do, you can guarantee that person doesn't speak Ebonics, as they would say. Because to speak the Queen's English and have that grasp of the Queen's English, and then to speak Ebonics is two different things. A lot of people can't understand slang. When I say Ebonics, a lot of people don't understand street slang simply because of the grammatical structure and the wordings and how we emphasize meanings, certain words that we give meaning to, which means something completely different in the Queen's English. So it confuses the minds of those that speak in a very semantical way. Whereas we all mostly speak conceptually. So This is why the language barrier exists amongst the people within our communities, or people that they would classify as on the lower rung of education. So of the educational system. But it's not that we are less intelligent, as the advisor to number 10 Downing Street, who got sacked a couple of weeks ago. It's not that we've got a lower IQ. It's simply because the IQ tests, whether we want to look at the WACE or the the whatever IQ test that they implement in schools, they designed around they have what inside of them what you call cultural sensitive things, that if you're not used to seeing those images, then those images won't make no sense. And even now, a lot of those tests are having to be revised. For example, I'm sure in the WISC, it's called the Welshire Intelligence Scale, something of the sort, right? In those tests, Google it and look at some of those images and some of those the things they ask in those tests. They're very Eurocentric in nature. And not only are they very Eurocentric in nature, some of the images in them are outdated. So you have IQ tests with like the old fashioned TV boxes, and a modern child won't see that old fashioned TV box and recognize it as a TV, for example. So even now they're having to revise it based on cultural changes and even the changes within technology within society. So a lot of those tests that shows lower IQ states and lower IQ levels, we all now know, if we're doing our reading, our due diligence, we all now know that they're statistically biased, because they will always impact and show a younger person, and show a person of differences that it will always have that cultural variation that they don't adjust for. So our scores will always be lower towards, as they say, 75 and whatever, and that's close to what they call mental retardation. Because once your score is lower than 70, they say that you have potential learning difficulties. Once your score is below 54, then they classify you as having mental retardation. So having a very biased testing system and a scoring mechanism that we are going by is always going to be something that is unfair to us, if we are always going to be subscribing to that. But then you'll have these idiots that, as such as the idiot that was working for Downing Street, that will come and say, well, Europeans are smarter than black people, on the basis of their Europeanized designed tests. Now you get that? A European designed a test for Europeans. So in the Europeans' mind's eye, their concept of intelligence weighed into the test. So in their mind's eye, the things that they view as, well, that will be smart, are placed within the confines of a test. Then they run what they call normalization process, where these tests are run against a general populational norm, as they would call it, right? So within the generalized population, they will run these tests amongst their own other Europeans, right? And then they would pick and choose and take things and add things in and run further normalization processes. I'm explaining how these things work. And when they do all of that, then they come down to a commonality to say this is a normalized test that's been validated by using 10,000 people to validate this test. And this test does look at intelligence in this way, because most people within the society that score high on this test tend to be quite smart and clever, and people that score low on this test tend to struggle. Now, we have to take that now to look at the fact that, yes, that will always be the case, because people that score high in that society, they understand the nuances within that society. They understand the cues, the all those things to make due on a high test. But yet, you'll have someone that has no education, right, as they would say, or low education, that would outshine and what's the word that I want to outperform in a lot of areas those that are feeling that they're technically superior because of their IQ scores. And I will say, yes, IQ scores have some validity in some areas. When you're in an educational system where you have to have certain um, awareness of cultural norms to progress, and to do well, because the symbology within these fields, you need to grasp the cultural meaning of them to quickly process on a mental level the the meaning of them when you're doing a task. Whereas for us, within those systems, its meaning to a lot of people falls by the wayside because it's not of their cultural persuasion, and personally they might not even care. It's not important to them. What's important to them is to get in, as they would say, the cash, the moolah, the money. That's the focus, you know. So, Doctor Surgery, welcome. If you're just tuning in, it's the show where we discuss current affairs. If you're a first-time listener, welcome to the show. We'd love to hear from you. Usually it's around this time we start getting a few calls at least to let us know that you're listening. Let us know that you're listening. Let me know that I'm not just talking to myself and I'm rambling. Let me know if I'm speaking sense. Let me know if you want me to discuss anything specific. And let me know if you want to go live and have a discussion yourself in and around any of the things that I've mentioned. I'll recap all those things in a sec. The number, I'll give it now and I'll give it after I recap. It's 0753 996 8143. I'll give it again, 0753 996 8143. That's the number if you want to call in, pose any questions, text in, or go live and ask your question or put your point across. It'll be good to have that active discussion. I do not want to be lecturing. I do not want to be delegating how people should be thinking. It's just more of an active discussion so we can create that commonality in thinking amongst each other and we can learn from each other. If you got anything pertinent that you think you might want to add, let us know. If you think that the show is a bit wayward in its thinking, let me know. It's quite crucial to hear from you. Unknown caller, thanks for the drop call. But go live. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know how you're interpreting the information. Give me some confidence boost. Let me know that I'm doing a good job or a bad job, because I want to do a good job. I want to make sure that whatever I'm conveying is the right information and it's being conveyed in a balanced and professional way. Give us some feedback. So just to recap, on all the news matters and all the things of the last week that we're discussing. We initially started off, and this is going to be a common theme throughout the time in terms of compromise. Whether we're compromised through our jobs or relationships or family or friends, in terms of how we interact and how we convey and how we can discuss information. In a nutshell, can you listen to this show in your workplace right now? If it was live on the speakers, would your fellow Caucasian or Asian colleagues, would they take kindly to you listening to a show like this live in the workplace? So we're compromising what we listen to, even though we're not listening to anything that's hateful or hurtful, because that's one thing that I do not want to propagate: hate and hurt and divide. But what I want to propagate is clarity. I want to propagate unity, but we have to discuss the difficult things that are impacting on us to do so. So that's the compromise position. Another things that we'd like to discuss to get your view on is: do you feel that celebrities should take a political stance? It's good when they support a political stance, but do you think they themselves should have that goal and that drive? And it's just going out to for the fact, with last week's award ceremony with Dave calling the prime minister racist. Do you feel Dave was correct? Do you feel Boris Johnson is racist? What has he done for him to be branded a racist? If you feel he's racist, that would be interesting to know. Because just to say someone's racist because they're white can be viewed as ignorance. just to say someone's racist because they're a white prime minister that whose policies so far don't do anything for black folks, again, is an ignorant statement. But if the policies can be broken down and explained to be prejudicial, then we can start coming to a conclusion. So, on what grounds do you feel that Dave called the prime minister racist? If anyone that's listening that knows Dave, tell Dave to please give us a call. You know what I mean? I'd love to know from Dave himself. If Dave, if you're listening, I know the show ain't that big yet, but geez, can you imagine how big the show will get if Dave calling? Dave, calling, let me know what you're thinking, right? Let me know why you call the prime minister racist. I know this ain't the BBC, but since you're calling the prime minister racist, give a black show a shout out so that we can get that boost as well. Give us that interview, give us that exclusive. Why did you call the prime minister racist? I'll be interested to know that from you directly. We also discussing sexuality. You know, John Fashanu, you know, the first gay black footballer, they say, that came out. How did that? Were you? Are you from a Britain that was at that time? What was it like? And was it a great thing that he did? Was it a bad thing? How is it? How is it now? How do you feel it's impacted on the black community? Has it been a positive impact or a negative impact? Because I tend to feel in this country that you're not truly accepted in white society if you're fully black. You know what I mean? And when you say fully black, it's like you're saying fully bad in some context, because it's like when you're a bit more what's the word? I don't want to say something that offends someone. I feel like when you're a bit more sensitive in your behavior and your emotional standpoint, you know, society is a bit more welcoming and accommodating because they see you as a non-threat. But if you're, for lack of a better way of saying it, if you're a man, you get me? Yeah, I'm old school. I'm not trying to be offensive. If you're a man, then it's, and I'm not saying that someone who's of a different persuasion sexually is not a man. I'm just using the terms that people will understand quickly. You know what I mean? If you're a man, then society tends to kind of deals with you with like tentatively because you're a man. You know what I mean? Or if you're a strong woman, is you know, as opposed to someone that, you know, is a bit more sensitive and in touch with their emotions. And you all know what I mean. I'm doing my best not to be insensitive about. I'm just doing my best to convey a message. Again, compromised. You see, we're so compromised in how we present and how we say things. Um, and again, we discussed the fact about the trans information that's now impacting on the black community, with one black celebrity trying to get her stepson in surgery. The mom doesn't want it to happen, you know, but the mom hasn't got the clout behind her, where they're trying to, you know, mutilate this little boy's organs because he doesn't feel like he's a boy, he feels like he's a girl, and he wants to have female parts as where he is in life at the moment. And they're pushing for that surgery on a 12-year-old. And I'm saying, what 12-year-old knows truly how they're going to feel when they're 25? Think about it, folks. At 12, did you? I mean, I'm different. When I was, I've been the same since I've been a child. I ain't changed. But is everyone the same? I don't know. So if everyone's the same, then granted, you know what I mean? Because I know, for me, where my hat always laid. You know what I mean? But is it? But we still had things within our life that might have seemed very important at 12. That don't mean diddly squat now. Nonetheless, is it? Is that? Isn't that mutilation in a sense? Where can't we wait? Can't they wait until he's then, whatever age he chooses to be, when he's more mature and can make that decision? Shouldn't that be the case? You know, why is it trendy? Why do we always push to be trendy, to jump on these things? You know, we have we have even these rappers now that want to wear high heels and all these things to say that they're fashionable. You know, why is it that we are always the ones through this effeminization process that take the brunt of this? Why should we be the flagship? I'm not saying I'm not saying that people can't choose to be what they. I'm just saying why should it be? So, and again, the last part, before, and I give the number again, are women marginalized? Are Black women marginalized in today's society? We know, I don't think women in general are marginalized, but again, like I said, like my producer keeps pulling me out, women, white women aren't marginalized in her eyes. I'm sure white women might disagree, but
I'm ready for the fight.
say again.
So I'm ready for the fight.
And she's ready for the fight. She says she doesn't feel white women, but she feels black women are marginalized. She doesn't want to go on camera yet to start explaining her views, but nonetheless, I don't feel women are marginalized. Full stop. So let us know what you're thinking. Thank you for the drop calls. It'll be good to for someone to go live and say their piece. I know you're listening, but you know, go live. Let us know what you're thinking. Yeah. So big up all the drop calls, 435, and all the unknown callers that have called. The number to take part and to present your point, it'll be good. Like I said, I hate ranting. I've been ranting in the last couple of weeks on this show. It's unbelievable. Thanks to all the callers that have called. I'm a researcher. I go away and I research what's being said, and it's amazing in the little bit of information that's been shared over those couple of weeks, how much they've helped me to get a greater grasp of certain things. The number to take part, to let me know you're listening, 0753 996 8143. I'll give it again, 0753 996 8143. It'll be great to get some feedback from you. So we recycle the conversation. Let's go back to the topic, the first topic we started on Harry and Meghan. I just want to explain again, you know, um, my position with this, because sometimes you have to take a position. I don't hold the Queen responsible whatsoever to in this sense. A lot of people are saying, because when it's positive, in this country, the Queen's like God in it. When it's positive, she did it. When it's negative, it wasn't her. But we're going to take the same stand. You know what I mean? Because again, for anyone to dedicate their life to a cause and they stick by that cause on up into their 90s, gosh, hats off to that person, because it's not an easy task. She's done a great job for this country, and I can understand why this country holds her a debt of gratitude in that sense. Granted. So what I will say, I'll take the same position, and when it's positive, I'll give the Queen credit, and when it's negative, I'll blame the advisors, and I blame Buckingham Palace, who I called for lack of a better word right now, the advisors are Buckingham Palace, and I blame Buckingham Palace for now being on the wrong side of history, because I do strongly feel that Meghan um, has been unduly and racially bombarded over the last few years in the British press and the British media. And these negative reports of her being, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, the reports have always pushed to label her like an opportunist, that she's only there to strike an opportunity. So she's only with him because of the opportunity that he presents. And yet, when they go to step away, to say, "All right, let's step away from that," and this that reminds me of a story about a man, his son, and a donkey. That you can't change, you can't keep changing how you are for others. You know, because you can't keep going by based on what people say. You have to just go by what you know is right. But nonetheless, I'm not here to assume what's right from what's wrong in the scenario, as opposed to look at what it is for what it is. So with the fact that the family then moved to step away from that, and still yet the media then went on to push as if they were trying to become rich off royal money without the works. And again, no one's looked at the royal cousins that have not done, they haven't really taken part in royal life apart from going to royal functions and smiling for the press and the media, and they can do all these things, yet the Sussexes aren't able to do none of this. It sounds like a extremely bad double standard. And when we look at the reason for this double standard, there's only one that stands out. Whether or not what we want to say about, oh, she's a gold digger or she's this and she's that, that's the racist British press that's pushed that narrative, and they've pushed that narrative in every area. So when you hear the information on the British press, I've only heard so far, and I could be wrong because I haven't listened to everyone, but so far I've only heard one um, balanced view so far in the national media and the national press of this. Every other view has been biased, especially coming from far right groups. So again, you know what the agenda item is there. She was never really accepted by the British media, the British press, for where she's coming from and where she's placed herself in life. And when I say yes, she's placed herself there in life, because wherever you want to place yourself in life, you can end up placing yourself there by making the decisions and taking the actions to place yourself there. So she's never really been truly accepted by the British media and the British press for that. And it's shown in their racist and biased reporting on everything that she does. A devout husband and now father as well, protecting his wife, is then being lambasted for being manipulated. So I asked the question, where are the so-called feminist movements, the Me Too movements, that asks for these kind of support for women, asks for these kind of understanding for women, but yet when it's given, they're silent on in this area. You know, we know um, we know that Harvey Weinstein got the butt a very no one can no longer say what happened to Harvey Weinstein or if Bill Cosby's gone down. One of the first things I said about the Harvey Weinstein possible verdict before the verdict came out was that Harvey's going to go to jail simply because they need to also create a sacrificial lamb to kill the narrative that people keep saying Bill Cosby is the only person that's being persecuted or prosecuted and has gone to jail. So someone White also has to follow, unless it's going to create that very bad narrative. So they have to create a sacrificial lamb also, and it's likely going to be Mr. Weinstein, which is manifested. So I know that Harvey must have been there kicking himself, saying, "Man, I wish Bill had gotten away," because you know he wasn't going to get away simply on that grounds, because that would have created even a great stronger narrative for Black America to emphasize that divide that's taking place in America at the moment as we speak, between white America and Black America. And I think that within the public eye that was recognized. And this is why I'm saying we have to start learning about these nuances, to start ensuring that policies and procedures within this country roll out to always be beneficiary to us. So much so that policies and procedures in this country are always rolling out, impacting on us. We make a bag of noise about it, and then along comes a white savior, and then the policy and procedure is rescinded. And we always give thanks to all those white folks that step out and help us. I'm not saying it in a negative narrative. What I'm saying is we need to be proactive and not reactive, so that we can use those support from others in a more productive way, and not to always be fighting the same battles generationally, because it's always the same regurgitative and repetitive battles. It's always the same repetitive and regurgitative battles. We're going to do stop and search. No, we're not going to do stop and search. We're going to do stop and search. No, we're not going to do stop and search. It's been rolling on and off since, geez, the devil was a boy. And if we were more in control or had a greater grasp and understanding of how these nuances in society impact on us, we would have been able to stem that argument a long time ago. It's like if someone's going to try to say something about certain other communities, that shop is shut before the argument even starts. We have to kind of keep our house in that order. And this is why the show is there to discuss these current affairs, to kind of highlight and emphasize things taking place in the media and the press as it goes along on a current affairs basis, so that on a current affairs basis, we are always in step with what's taking place in the British media and the British press and the narrative that they're promoting, so that people can see the narratives for themselves and discuss what the most appropriate steps are, and we can have this platform for a dialogue. And we don't need to reply. We don't need to rely on the BBC for their once a year handout. Their once a year, oh, let's have a look at this issue because we are reacting to something, and if the reaction is okay, let's do something now before the reaction gets to boiling point. We need to be proactive, not reactive. And it's good to become proactive through discussion, so we can all have a unilateral mode of thinking, a unilateral understanding of how we need to act, when we need to act, and what the process is. We all know what we all need to do. And that's why we have the doctor's surgery, to have that dialogue and have that discussion. So I feel that Buckingham Palace in this issue is going to be on the wrong side of history. I think that the decision was racist against the Sussex because of the ill-advised information that was given to the Queen. And it's going to be shown to be so over time. I think their reaction, I think the Sussex is pointing out in black and white the unfair and unjust treatment is appropriate. And I don't think anyone that's going through unfair and unjust treatment should sit back and relax and just accept it. And again, if the Harvey Weinstein example is of any benefit, it's quite important. The oldest case against Harvey Weinstein, I think, goes back to either the 70s or the 80s, where an Oxford an Oxford graduate, a Chinese Oxford graduate, or Oxford graduate of Chinese persuasion, was his assistant. And she claimed that at that time, in one of those film festivals, he tried to force himself onto her in a hotel room, where the office of that company normally is based out of at these events. And she pushed it the next day. She reported it, but long and short of it, the resolution from that was clauses for him not to do it again, and NDAs and non-disclosure agreements being signed off. And this was going back to the 80s or whenever, God knows when that was, or the 70s. Um, but the point being is that if people don't stand up when these things happen and as things occur and things take place, then all that it does is it generates what you call an additive effect that builds up over time when someone is truly what you say they are. If someone is not what you say they are, then you don't really see it, because misunderstandings can take place. You won't really see that rolling out so much so. But for us as a people, we tend to leave things. We get problems in our workplace, as opposed to reporting these problems so that it prevents the person following behind you from going through that heartache with that racist member of staff or that prejudiced member of staff, or whatever reasons that staff has as an issue towards you. Rather than emphasizing it and making a log, most black people tend to leave that workplace. So what happens is that there's not a consistent trail of evidence that supports people coming in that position. Because the first thing the workplace will say, well, it's the first time we're hearing of anything like this, when one person decides to take the stand, or the stance, I should say, of highlighting and emphasizing these situations. And I'm not promoting a culture of snitching or informing and promoting a culture of standing up for your rights. You know, using current affairs to see where society is being steered, because like we all know now, this country is not, we all should be aware, this country is not based really on the laws of the land. This country is based on what people morally think is right and what people morally think is wrong. So once you've been convicted to be immoral within those morality laws, once you're convicted within the public eye to be immoral, so just like the Sussexes, where Meghan received all those unfair treatments and everyone viewing her as being immoral from all that negativity. Now, when the true nature of the beast is manifesting on them, most of the British media and the British press is saying, well, it's deserved. She's immoral. And when you see what I mean? So it's a case of we have to start grasping these nuances. And I keep using that term just to explain that things are very nuanced in this country. We use these examples to kind of lend clarity to show you how the process works. The BBC and all the other major news outlets, they hid the true nature of the reasons and the offenses why all these people were being deported to Jamaica on the chartered flights. And the moment that after these people are being deported, they're going to Jamaica and interviewing these people because why? They want a scoop. Yet they knew the true essence of the stories before these deportations. But these media outlets sat on the truth. They made the British public generate a true hatred towards these offenders because they made the British they replayed the narrative from the government. So it's like they washed their hands of responsibility because they were just repeating what the government or the governmental position was, that these are serious offenders, yet knowing that these people weren't serious offenders, yet knowing that these people were people that were caught on some one-off incidents, traffic violations, minor incidents in some cases, but they made you feel that these people were pedophiles, murderers, major drug traffickers. That's the narrative that they played to. That's why I said we have to be aware of these nuances. And then and so they didn't challenge the government when the government said these people were serious offenders because they spent a year or two in prison, because they should have said, well, I thought by law you have to spend over 10 years in prison to be, the crime has to be worth over 10 years in prison to be deemed or viewed as a serious offender. So we have to be aware of how these institutions work and how they function, because the moment after these deportations, the last week, you've been bombarded with videos from these media houses now showing these people in Jamaica saying, all I did was I did one offense when I did a burglary or something, or I did I got caught speeding, yes, or I did this offense. These trivial and minor offenses, now they're highlighting and emphasizing it. But the British, they already played the negative narrative to the British press, and the British press has already made up their minds to be against these people. Sorry, the British public have already made up their minds to be against all these individuals, irrespective of what they had done. So they planted the seed of negativity and doubt in the scenario from the earliest onset. Whether Mr. Weinstein was guilty or not, he was going to be found guilty because he was already guilty by association within the press. Whether Bill Cosby was guilty or not, he was already guilty by association in the press. Whether R. Kelly is guilty or not, he's already guilty because he's already guilty by association in the press. in the mind's eye of the people. And they do that. They plant these seeds, they and of against people, you know. And if you go to the courthouses and you observe trials in the courthouse, it's the same thing. You'll have the prosecution, or let's say the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service. That lawyer will stand up and they will present an image and paint a picture of the defendant. Whether the defendant is innocent or guilty, the Crown Prosecution Service paints an image. That's their job. So it's like it now becomes a game. So if a courthouse where it's life changing is playing games where it's about two lawyers presenting images and pictures of someone, and then it's what the juries or the judge buy into, then it shows you that you have to be aware of nuances and how people think and how people conclude decisions in their head. Just like how you would hire someone based on their intelligence or their IQ, you should be aware of how nuances impact on your thinking. So why? So that you don't become like a puppet without a string, because people will always be pulling those strings that don't exist based on how they know you're going to react and behave emotionally in certain scenarios where all they need to do is present certain cues. Once that cue is presented, they will see that behavior and that reaction. So for me, I feel Buckingham Palace, again, is on the wrong side of history with the Sussexes in terms of the outcome of that, because I feel either the advisors got made their decision based on the media handling of the Sussexes. They looked at it to say perhaps she is, perhaps they're trying to, what's the word, swindle the coffers or the government, the purse of the state or the royalty, the monarchy, because that's how the media portrayed it. And that's now in the mind's eye of people making important decisions that's now impacting on this young couple's life. Do you see what I'm saying? This is how racism starts. This is how it's portrayed. And this is why I said that, again, a subject here that I would love to discuss when the show is in a greater format, when we have a lot of listeners calling in. And if we can get it to that stage, this is why we have to kind of look at these things in greater detail, where we ourselves, we're the reason why racism is still perpetrated against us by the far right and racist groups, because we make it cool for it to happen. We create the soil, we create that soil, because even when you don't create that soil, it will exist. But the fact that we are always fertilizing the ground, we make it it's so profoundly popular to do it to us than anyone else. Not to say that other races and other groups don't go through their own trauma and difficulties. That will always be a place. There will always be a place in some capacity. But we make it cool for it to happen to us. Because why do you make it cool for it to happen to you? Because everyone does it to you. And then when you listen, you even do it to yourself. And that goes back to the words, the N word, the GGA, and the GGER. We make it cool for others to do that to us. So let me know what you think. If you have any opinion on that, 0753-996-8143. I'll give it again, 0753-996-8143. The Doctor's Surgery, broadcasting live from OmegaFMradio.co.uk, Omega 104.1, Omega, you have the mixcloud.com/Omega DJ, and YouTube, you have Omega London TV Presents. And then on our own channel, you have the Doctor's Surgery. So that's TheDrSurgery on the YouTube. We also have the Instagram. What's the Instagram again, please? We also have the Instagram. So by next week, you know, The producer promises me that everything will be there. So it's the doctor's surgery, TheDrSurgery. The doctor's surgery, and that's the Instagram, is it? And then the Twitter, that should be flying out as well. So if you don't see anything on those platforms, blame the producer, not me. Um, after talking for 10 hours and steps in to keep those things up and popping. So if it's blank, throwing her under the bus with that one. And if you want to watch live, like I said, see live what's taking place in the studio, Omega London TV presents, or you can go to YouTube, The Doctor's Surgery. So that's THE. Let me bring up the link. See if so the Doctor's Surgery, and how do I get this link up? Just click on it. Hmm? So THEDRSURGERY. So the Doctor Surgery. So THEDRSURGERY, and that's live on YouTube at the moment. So that's broadcasting live to the world. If you want to take part in that, THEDRSURGERY. I'm here, the man with the balaclava, no name presenter. Because it's not about me, it's about the discussion, an active discussion. And that's all it is. It's not about me, it's about the discussion. I'm not trying to seek fame from this. Maybe some fortune, but no fame. You know what I mean? So let's have that discussion. 0753 996 8143. If you're listening, let me know if you're listening, if you're still listening. 0753 996 8143. Shout out to the caller, letting me know that you're listening. I'd love to hear from someone today, though. Love to have a live caller. Please don't be shy. This is not a show where you'll be challenged in terms of what you're saying. I will ask a few questions. Well, I'm not challenging someone's point of view in that sense. It's more of open discussion, open dialogue. Do you agree with what's been said so far? Do you disagree? You know what I mean? Even if you're not comfortable with the show, let me know if there's something that irks you about how the show is presented. Are we doing a good job in terms of how we're taking on these current affair issues and how we're presenting it? It'll be important to know that as well. Send us a text message or give us a call. So the hotline or the call or text, is 0753 996 8143. I'll give it again, 0753 996 8143. We got another 9 minutes or so before the news and advert break at 10. So it'll be good to hear from you. We're on air until 11. So we're just recapping and going over the key points. As I said, one of the areas that will be a focus and discussion aspect of things over the coming shows, whilst we pilot this show, the Doctor's Surgery, is discussing the issue of compromise. Do you feel that the show, or do you feel yourself is compromised? The show wants to highlight the issue of compromise, being compromised, in the sense of, if you're just tuning in the sense that if you're in a relationship, is it difficult being in certain relationships and having discussions around the impact and difficulties on Black people? Or does that just make things uncomfortable? Can you have certain discussions and dialogue? Does it make you feel uncomfortable during certain situations? So, for example, how this show may be compromising is, would you be able to sit in your workplace and listen to this show? If you were, would you be able to sit and listen to this show within your workplace comfortably? Or would it be compromising? Are you finding that you're always compromised because of, your own scenario? Are you are you a mixed child? Again, a topic here that I don't want my producer to say I didn't emphasize or highlight well enough, is, the issue of I'm old school, so like I say, so once someone's mixed, I always look at the situation to say, right, if someone's mixed, once one drop of blood, black blood means you're black. And a lot of people will argue and debate that to say that's not the case. And in some capacities, it's down to the individual to choose where they sit. But then one of the things that was highlighted is that why is it okay? Why is it okay that some people can choose to be black? Is that the right way of putting it? When it
Yeah,
suits them.
they're just in. They want to create their own space, but yet in being black places as
Right.
well.
So why is it that they can create their own space but yet be black at the same time when they choose it, when it's good, when it's cool,
Mm.
or
When it
or,
benefits
or
them.
beneficiary for them, but when things get difficult, they remove themselves from that space. So the so what that means is that being in that space is like a safe hold. But then when it's cool to be black again, they can come out in and amongst us as black folks, which I still say that we're all black. But if people want to create that space, and I do know what the producer is talking about. If you don't, if you're still a bit confused, if we arc back to South Africa, for example, we have a class of people that they call themselves coloreds. Is it coloreds?
Mm.
And where they're from mixed relationships and they do not recognize themselves as being black. They do classify themselves as colored. So while some people recognize that once they travel out of South Africa, they realize that it, that's all in your head, right? But it, it, it's it's a valid discussion point. Are you from a mixed family yourself? How do you feel about that? I'd like to hear that, because I'm not trying to create a divide here, but it's something that we have to clear the air with, so that we know in on future shows, because these are delicate areas within our society that we will need to address over time one day. So why not now get out the way to have that grasp, rather than waiting for someone else or another grouping to determine how things can be laid out, or how that space can be cleared up. I think it's important that we discuss and look at that narrative. Do you feel do you feel, coming from a mixed family background, that you yourself are compromised in how you're viewed by others? Do you find that you're viewed in any negative way, or is it the case that you feel you do not agree when someone tries to classify you as black or white? You feel you're mixed and you feel you represent both groupings, and that should be recognized as such. That's another, because your feelings is as important, or your opinions as important as anyone else's. So it'll be quite interesting to know what people's take on that is. So mixed couples, and I guess that's something that we have to discuss, because the reason why this popped up so much is with the discussion around the Sussexes, because in a sense it's like, when it's bad, then everyone looks at it to say, well, she's black. But then when it's good, everyone looks at it to say, oh, she's mixed. So, but from my position, you throw one person under the bus, everyone's going to end up under the bus eventually. So I tend to hold the ground of, you throw yourself under the bus if you want, because a lot of people throw themselves under the bus. And if you want to throw yourself under the bus, then so be it. You choose to do something in life where there's negative ramifications from that, then on your shoulders that will be, because everything has its comeuppance, as the saying goes. And we have to make sure that we put ourselves in positions where whatever the feedback, whatever the backlash from anything, is always positive or beneficiary for us, and it always pushes and promotes growth. Whereas a lot of people just tend to spend their life fighting their own for no reason. you know I can never throw my own under the bus, because that's not my style. So if you choose to enter into a scenario, last week's caller, I think they spent a few, like quite a long time expressing their disdain for mixed relationships because they feel that it impacted and it's negative towards the black community, and that it's destructive towards us as a people. And again, next week's show will be up on the YouTube channel in time, so you'll be able to listen to that and make your enjoy your own conclusions from that. But for me, I wouldn't take that position to say that it's negative or destructive. I would say what's negative or destructive about it would be to treat it as if it's something special. It is what it is. People are happy in whatever relationships they choose to be. But the question should be asked, are you in that relationship because you want to be, or you're in that relationship because you feel it's the best place for you to be? So it's a decision based again on possibly self-hate, you know, as opposed to you finding someone that you get on with in that sense and you develop that relationship with naturally, and it was biological and natural in its growth, organic as the saying goes, in its growth, as opposed to something that's because you see these severities in those scenarios, or you see these situations and it's deemed to be easiest, that's what you push and you run for. So I mean, but to each their own. Everyone will get, like I said, their comeuppance, because everything has a way to manifest itself, whether something should have taken place or should not have taken place. Two a mixed couple that grow old together and have a long life, and that was healthy. That must have been the right decision for that person because they had a long life that was healthy. So you have to look at the best and the worst outcomes. You know what I mean? You can't just make decisions on random basis because you feel that's what the case may be. But like I said, each their own. Doing my best to highlight the issue of how difficult this area of discussion is, and we have to clear up these little nuances. you know Again, I want to emphasize each their own. I couldn't care less, you know but does it impact on us as a people, or it doesn't matter, or who cares? We have to weigh up all the things, because if no one cares, then when we look at the ramifications from it and the impact, then should it be an issue? Should there be even an issue around such matters? Let us know what you're thinking. We're going to take a pause for the cause in the next minute or so. The number, if you want to take part in the show, is 0753 996 8143. I'll give it again, 0753 996 8143. Let us know you're listening. Let us know what your position is. Let us know your take. I mean, I want to thank all the contributors over the last few weeks. I guess no one's listening this week apart from a few people that's giving us some drop calls, or no one wants to take part, even though you're listening. I got a few text messages saying that you're listening. I apologize for saying that. But it would be good to not just get those text messages. It'll be good to hear your take. It'll be good not to be rambling. It'll be good to have uh, an opinion on all these matters where we can all benefit and we can all grow. Because, like I said, I do not want to lecture. I want a shared outset and a shared outlook from you, the public, and you, the listening audience. So we're going to take a pause for the cause, pay some bills, and we catch you back on the other side. All right. I have, oh my days, just a minute.